All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Green Local School District Board of Education meeting for the month of April. Mrs. Snowberger, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Campbell?
Here?
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Here.
Mr. Chinaki?
Here.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mrs. Finelli?
And Mrs. Spinelli will not be joining us this evening. She's out and was unable to make it for the meeting tonight. So we will proceed on with the approval. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We'll please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. It's like, oh. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's been a long time since we've met. Man. Moving forward with the approval of the agenda. I don't believe there's any addendum items for this evening, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff. Questions or comments? Mrs. Snowberger.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. There is no need for executive session at this time, nor are if there's any visitors who wanted to comment on the agenda. I don't see any of those either, so we'll continue on with the approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of March 22nd, 2021, as well as the special board meeting of April 9th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chinaki. Questions or comments? Mrs. Snowberger?
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Item 6, the financial report. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the financial statement and payment of bills for March 2021. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chinaki. Questions or comments? Mrs. Snowberger?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Item B, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the donation from the Andrea Rose Teodosio Foundation in support of the Student Services Department and Green High School to be used for the Exceptional Olympics for Students with Disabilities at Green Middle and High School. The amount of the donation is $1,500. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff. Second?
Second.
Mr. Cohen, thank you. Questions or comments?
Just want to thank the Teodosio Foundation and those of you that haven't had an opportunity to see the Exceptional Olympics. It takes place every year in May, and it's just a great opportunity for our kids. So this money will go to great use, and we're very appreciative of this and other donors that are so generous here in Greene.
Absolutely.
Can I just tag on to that? The Andrea Rose Teodosio Foundation was started by judges Linda and Tom Teodosio after the tragic death of their daughter. So I just want to say that the way they've given back to the community through this foundation is really a lesson in grace for all of us, because they've turned what was a significant family tragedy into a foundation that helps students and others in many valuable ways. And I'm lucky enough to call them friends, so I really appreciate their donation.
Thank you for that. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. New business under the consent calendar note. Items under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted under one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the board votes unless a board member requests an item be clarified or even removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chinaki.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff. Questions or comments?
Obviously, it's the time of year where we're already planning for next school year, and these are numerous contract renewals. I did want to bring our attention to number 10, Deborah Bennett. She started with us back in 2007, so as she heads into retirement, we wish her well on her future endeavors and thank her for her services. And that's it.
All right. Mrs. Snowberger.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoyanov?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes,
Motion carries 4-0.
thank you. Item B, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education accept the quote from Surveillance 247 LLC to purchase 50 replacement bus camera systems for $114,750 in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 3313.46 to be expended from the safety and security funds. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen,
Second.
and thank you, Mr. Chinaki. Questions or comments?
Just want to comment that we have a health, safety, and security committee that meets regularly. I'm going to be a little bit of a broken record with a few items on this list after B, but when we've met, we've identified areas, and this is one of those areas that were at the top of the list, which is putting these camera systems on our school buses. There's a lot of enhancements with safety. When the arm bar comes down, it will now capture license plates, which will be a good deterrent for drivers when they're around school buses. Obviously, you see stories from time to time around the country, and this added piece of safety will be put to good use. So we're very excited about this. I know the clarity is really, really good in the evening, in the morning, so we're just looking forward to this. And again, this came, and I want to thank our Health, Safety, and Security Committee for their time and some of the feedback they've given us.
And just for clear on that note, Jeff, I think that we were at the Summit County
Yeah,
Sheriff's
it was-
Training Facility, and we were talking about that. I believe this film, or the picture quality is high enough for law enforcement to
Yes.
contact people who are in violation, known violation, and it's caught basically on the camera.
Yep, they can zoom in, and they showed us some examples, and the clarity of license plates, even at a speed, is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it was amazing to see. It's going to give us even basically a all around the bus view of our buses now, and then and what's going on inside. It was amazing technology.
Yeah, excellent. All right, Mrs. Snowberger.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes,
Mrs. Stoyanov?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
thank you. Item C, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education accept the quote from Carpenter Asphalt Sealer Company Incorporated for $35,200 to install security bollards at identified locations throughout the district in accordance with ORC 3313.46, again to be expended from the permanent improvement funds. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoyanov,
Second.
and thank you, Mr. Chinaki. Questions or comments?
This yet again comes from the Health, Safety, and Security Committee. And if you are familiar with the tennis courts, the orange safety bollards there prevent vehicles from accidentally or purposely coming into the tennis court area. We worked with the Summit County Sheriffs as part of this committee to identify different locations throughout our buildings to put these, so we can prevent that from happening. So this was a teamwork effort, and definitely, again, something that the committee felt very strongly about.
Thank you. Mrs. Snowberger.
Mrs. Stoyanov?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Item D, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education accept the quote from R.J. Beck Protective Systems Incorporated for $62,430 to install the Atlas System IP-108 EDU 8x8 servers at the Green Middle School and Greenwood Early Learning Center in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 3313.46 to be expended from permanent improvement funds. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Second.
And a second, Mrs. Stoyanov. Thank you. Mr. Miller?
All right, you guessed it. This also came from the Health, Safety, and Security Committee. And what this does, in addition to updating the PA systems, it ties several of our security features together through technology, and will obviously provide a lot of things that those two buildings will now catch up to the other buildings in the district. So we're excited about that. And again, this one I want to say was also in the top 5 in terms of what the committee would like to see. And I know the buildings are very excited about this. Having a functional PA system that does a lot of things in terms of safety will be great.
And this is one that communicates through, they all communicate through the Summit County Sheriff Hub
It's tied in, yes.
back into that, so that's all, more connectivity and that kind of stuff as well. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Snowberger?
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff,
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Item E, the superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education accept the most responsible bid submission from A. Morgan Building Group for athletic field improvements in the amount of $307,606, as well as potential change orders not to exceed 10%. This will be paid from the permanent improvement funds. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chinaki.
Second?
And a second, Mrs. Stoynoff. Thank you. Mr. Miller?
All right, and so this one is not the Health, Safety, and Security Committee. It actually is with our athletic facility plans, and this is something that Mr. Musi has wanted for some time and was at the top of his list. One of the things that we constantly struggle with is having the stadium for games. And in order to have games up there for our athletes, both our men and women, we need to have viable practice options that can also serve as potential game fields if necessary. So what this will do, it will take our freshman football field and expand it to make for the dimensions of a soccer field. And in doing so, obviously now we can have multiple teams using it. Right now, obviously, it's just a freshman football field, so now you enter both men's and women's soccer can be played there, as well as other sports, and this includes taking the press box that's very dated and not in a very good location, and it will be replaced with a new one that obviously is on the perimeter of the soccer field behind the bleachers. So I think by the time this is said and done, Mr. Musi was telling me that there's a number of events that can actually participate at the stadium for games, and then those other teams will have a really good practice facility. So that's what this entails.
And soccer and in the fall, lacrosse can use that in the spring?
Correct.
I would presume also. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Snowberger?
Mr. Chinaki,
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. No visitors this evening. I don't believe we've received any emails either for participation. We'll kind of continue on with that. So we'll move into board commendations. Mrs. Stoynoff, would you like to speak? Start us off this evening.
Sure. I wanted to congratulate Connor McClure for setting the Division I state record in the pole vault last week. Quite an accomplishment. 17 feet 3 inches was the measurement on that vault. So congratulations. In kind of connection to that, because how I saw it was from the wonderful pictures that Michelle Herdlick takes at our athletic events. And so I just wanted to thank her for that. Some of the pictures that she took made it actually seem from the angle that the vaulters were up and over the cab in their vaulting. So she just does such a wonderful job and has captured so many important and memorable moments for our athletes and others, and especially during the pandemic when, crowds have been limited and other things like that. It's, I'm sure, meant a lot to parents to be able to have access to those memories to share with others. So I just wanted to thank her and congratulate Connor on that achievement. Other than that, we're winding down really quickly. It's just a few weeks left, and we'll be crossing students across the stage. Prom is going to happen before we see each other again. So have fun, everyone. Be safe, be smart, and enjoy making memories with your classmates, which has been limited, obviously, for this class this year. So I'm so glad they're going to have the chance to do that. And I was suit shopping this weekend, and there's promposals and all kinds of fun things going on. So I look forward to wrapping up the year and congratulating my graduate and the rest of the class of 2021.
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff. Mr. Chinaki?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Just wanted to mention that the Run for Education is taking place this Saturday, which is sponsored by the Green Schools Foundation. It's actually a glow run, kind of cool, kind of neat concept. The 1 miler starts at 8:30, and at 9 o'clock is the 5K. So we'll run around the stadium, Bulldog Boulevard, and the surrounding areas with safety protocol in place, obviously, but a good fundraiser for the Green Schools Foundation. So looking forward to that. Not too late to sign up. Check out the Green Local Schools Facebook page. And just to echo Ms. Stoynoff's comments, it's crazy to believe that you look at the calendar and at the end of the week, it's May, and it's like, how did we get here so fast? So just kudos to our students and staff for their efforts and putting in the work to get here to this point. Just very proud of our community and the district for what everyone's been doing, and be safe, enjoy the prom and graduation and all those fun festivities. You know, that only happens once in your life, in your senior year, so enjoy it and make the most of it. So that's all that I have, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Janicki. Mr. Cohen?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. The Connor McClure thing is amazing. I mean, if you watch the video, it's incredible. I have a hard time even getting into bed. I don't know how anybody can pole vault that high. I mean,
Your bed's not 17 feet up off the
it seems like it is. Yeah. I would like to acknowledge cadets from our JROTC program who joined with members of the Perry High School JROTC at the Veterans Memorial Park in Clinton. The activity was part of the two-day event acknowledging the Baton Death March. And so thank you to the Green veterans who were on hand to show support for these students and leaders. I also wanted to congratulate the Green High School drama class and staff for their production of the Rainbow Fish. It's really nice having actual live events in places. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Miller, but I think this is the first time that we've offered online ticket purchases.
Correct.
Is that correct? And I know this is something parents have been asking for a long time, and we have finally joined the 21st century, so that's awesome that people can get it.
Took a pandemic, but here we are.
It did take, there you go. I'll miss, those times working in the box office. That was always kind of a bonding thing for the parents, but it was time, so that's awesome. Let's see. I also want to thank the City of Greene for their vaccine clinics and making those available in Greene, and I think that's a really great public service. I want to encourage our parents and now our students that are 16 years of age and older to go get the vaccine. People may notice we are all maskless here. It's not that we're being irresponsible. Every single one of us is vaccinated, and we're all socially distanced. Otherwise, we would have our masks on. I would just really encourage people, if they're still wavering, that the faster that more people get vaccinated, the faster we can come out of this nightmare of a pandemic. And finally, I want to thank everybody who participated in the 2021 PTA Readathon. We're excited to announce that the school raised over $15,000 between two buildings, which is phenomenal. So, and I think that surpassed last year as well. So that's a really great accomplishment. And I think that's all I have. I just want to reiterate: mask up and vaccinate, please.
And sleeves up, I guess, but, you know.
Sure.
Put your arm up, like, so anyways, that's pretty bad. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Yeah, the other thing with Connor, it's to watch his dad, Mark. He was a high jumper way back in the day, and he was actually a state champ high jumper back when Green won the track Division I championship with Mark Krogan and
Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly. That's because he was the pole vaulter. Brian was.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a long tradition in the McClure family for sure. So that was the video is really cool because it's just like you're watching them, and it's almost like you're going, oh, push off of it, and it's just like, oh, it's crazy. But we're talking about upgrading cameras and bollards, or however you pronounce that, and PA systems and athletic fields and things that start to make it feel like we're back in the swing of making our district better every day. Like, not that we weren't, but, it's not talking about, hand sanitizers and ionizers and cleaning the buses 8 times a day and all that kind of stuff, even though a lot of things that we did during the pandemic, we feel, the streaming from events, online ticket stuff, those kind of things that, a lot of things are here to stay, and a lot of things will maybe not look exactly the same, but we'll start to take on maybe a little bit different look for it. And, hopefully, as we see, like anything, you take the good parts that you can, you try to make them better, and you improve on it there. So, again, it's been a true testament to not only our staff and administration, but our kids and our families to be able to have the stamina and just the wherewithal to endure all this, and to know that, that the administration has only the best interest of their kids in mind, and, in doing things that took a lot of courage to do, I'll say that, and to be able to step out and be able to make the decisions that you guys made throughout this time, throughout these past, this school year. So, bringing that to a close. We do have need for executive session this evening. We do not anticipate any action to be taken afterwards. It's for Ohio Revised Code 12122, G1 for personnel. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session at this time?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chinaki.
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Stoynoff. Ms. Snowberger?
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoynoff?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. See you in May.